Hi guys, so I realized that video that I made earlier on BPD and NPD got sort of cut off. So I just wanted to sort of follow up a little bit on that video. I'm still studying a bit about BPD and just trying to figure out some of the differences. But one thing that I noticed when I was looking at the literature that with BPD, you know, they typically have a very low opinion of self. In fact, it's sort of distorted. It's less than it probably should be. And they do tend to experience a lot of guilt and remorse, especially after they have like an like an outburst of emotions that they feel that were sort of uncontrollable or erratic. And that's vastly sort of different from somebody who has NPD, who believes that they are perfect, who absolutely will not acknowledge that there's anything wrong with them, and that who doesn't have much or if any guilt or remorse or empathy. I have read that BPD can also have some empathy impairment, but they're not like completely devoid of empathy like somebody with NPD. And they definitely do not think that they're better than everyone else. NPDs think that they're better than everyone else. Everyone's envious of them, that they are superior. All the other 7 billion people on the planet, they are inferior. With the BPDs, they tend to have a very negative, distorted sense of self. And again, like I went over in the other video and you guys have probably read and heard about, they tend to have not a very stable sort of perception of who they are. So the BPDs do tend to sort of morph or chameleon into, you know, what they think that somebody would like for them to be, sort of a people-pleasing sort of thing going on. But they often are flooded with this intense emotion of guilt and remorse and shame. And that seems to be sort of vastly different from somebody who has NPD. So the other thing about BPDs, from what I've read, they are much more likely to seek treatment and go to therapy. And there's some therapeutic modalities that are very helpful for them. Cognitive behavioral therapy and dialectical behavioral therapy, DBT. Yeah, I think that's what it's called. And it's very effective, apparently. So a BPD is much more likely to seek help. They're much more likely to think that there's something wrong with them. They're much more likely to be, emotional and to have a, normal or wide range of emotion. Somebody who has NPD has that sort of flat affect, that hollowness, that very, very limited range of emotions, very muted, very empty. You can sense that when you're, with one of these people that have NPD. So, there's some really pretty big differences between the two disorders, although what I did read is there can be, it's not very common, but there can be some comorbidity. I'm gonna do some more research and try to make a video on somebody who actually has sort of both BPD and NPD, although from what I've read, it is quite uncommon. It seems to me from the literature that if somebody who has sort of more of a covert, vulnerable, shy narcissist, like they might sort of have more overlap with somebody who has borderline personality disorder. That's sort of just from what I've sort of extrapolated. But in general, I think somebody, if they have, my guess is if you have these two comorbid personality disorders, I wonder if if the BPD has the stronger characteristics, then they are maybe more likely to seek treatment. Because of course, as you know, narcissists are very unlikely to find themselves in therapy. They do not think there's anything wrong with them. Their whole personality is all about presenting this image of perfection, and anyone or anything that questions their omnipotence, their superiority, their perfection, that person is, devalued and hated. So really, the narcissist will be very contemptuous and, if they're covert, they will react with sort of silent scorn. So anyone that questions their superiority, their intellectual, physical, superiority will be put in the doghouse. So that's not the case with BPD. BPD, they tend to have like very fragile self-esteem, low self-esteem. They do not think very highly of themselves. They tend to sort of glom onto stronger people, which covert narcissists do that too, but they do it, they really idealize people. And part of that's because they don't have a good, strong sense of self. They don't think much of themselves. So yeah, again, I'm going to do some more research so I can give you a more informed video on this, sort of the comorbidity between the two. But from what I've seen, from what I've read, if they have borderline personality disorder, they are much more likely to seek treatment. They are also much more likely to be able to heal with that treatment. The DBT therapy is in the clinical trials that I was studying and the research that I was studying, it looks like it's very effective for people that have borderline personality disorder. It can be highly effective as well as other treatment modalities. But with narcissism, it's very hard to get any sort of treatment or any sort of cure. First of all, they just don't go to therapy. Second of all, they think they know more than the therapist. They're superior. They are they are gods in their own minds. Their ego is so, running the show that they typically cannot acknowledge that there's anything wrong or to get any sort of help for what ails them. So I hope this was helpful. I know this is a little bit all over the place, but I felt like that video got sort of cut off prematurely. I am going to study this more and give you hopefully some better answers in terms of somebody who's presenting symptoms of both of the disorders. Thanks so much and have a wonderful day. Bye.